A história da civilização humana é uma procura constante por significado e valor das coisas para se montar um sistema que explique o funcionamento do mundo à nossa volta.
Organization and Technology. Preamble. The objective here is to demonstrate this role of the Internet as a communication vehicle, and as an element of automation and innovation in management processes, in this case, considering distance learning, research, consulting and information. Our point is that we are facing a new concept, part of a new process, which has its own tools of a new media, which is fundamentally content, not just marketing. No one would have to sit for a long time in front of a TV or radio channel that presented only propaganda. This is the problem with pages and portals on the web today. A big marketing circus, without content. Our attempt here is to present content, reinforcing the new role of the Internet as an element of dissemination and propagation of information, value and knowledge. Globalization. The value and order of things. The current moment we are living in of globalization began 500 years ago with the discoveries and navigations, when we passed from the mystical medieval world to the age of classical reason, until we reached the current modernity. We are now living in the age of the masses, indeed the empire of the masses, with the global predominance of the middle class as the dominant force across the planet. The last 500 years have represented a formidable effort in search of values, concepts and order of things that surround us, and it has been based on the value of money. This monetary signal has signaled significance to the world around us, reinforcing the need for a science of ideas and beliefs with the aim of solving problems. It is no wonder that the maritime discoveries were followed by mercantilism and the advent of the so-called new science of Copernicus, Galileo and Descartes. The age of reason has defined the aesthetic values of the last 200 years of our history, through a set of paradigms for both the sciences and business, based on the value of objective thought and certainties as to the nature and order of things that surround us. The question of the value of money is significant to represent the very concept of current globalization. If in the beginning, gold was its greatest and best representation to measure the solid value of things, then we moved on to a period of creating valuation indices that, through fluctuations, represented what we wanted or desired. The gold standard is an example of this: greater or lesser inflow of gold into the balance of payments, the greater or lesser the purchasing power of the national currency. Today, currency, like gold, is a commodity with any other, which represents a set of values of risk and expectation of liquidity, traded on commodity and derivative exchanges. The fortune of each one is no longer in the vaults of the banks, but in the investment portfolio of the companies as accounting assets. The science of problems. From the beginning of the intense commercialization of products in the international market, provided by navigation, until we reached the level of mass production of the 20th century, a global market was formed with its own dynamics, which tries to balance technology and managerial processes in decision-making regarding the areas of marketing, commercial and production. The evolution of these forces of production, which at first were based on the definition of rigid conceptual models, has created levels of complexities that now force a revision of this classical view of defining and solving problems. In other words, the rigidity dictated by models and structures of control have gone away to give way to a new notion of mediation in the study and evaluation of conflicting forces, which form the most diverse economic, social, and political systems. In this sense, problems are not solvable and only manageable. Controls, following this view, evaluate equilibrium conditions, not just formulas, technology, or ready-made solutions. At the center of this notion of mediation as a balance of conflicting forces is the concept of information, which, despite being intuitive to each of us, would hardly agree with a definition. Thus, as we present here, information is a measure of the balance of conflicting forces between senders and receivers and has an economic value that is valued and devalued over time. We present the structure of information through two components, one technological and the other managerial. The managerial component of information. Bureaucracy. The managerial component of information is the one that focuses on the strategic value of decision-making processes, such as for the areas of marketing, production, commercial, human resources, research and development. The management's main concern is to appropriate the leverage provided by investments in the financial and production areas. As information in the end, it represents a notion of balance. What is sought to know is how the external and internal forces of the organization generate assets, wealth, and social balance. Throughout the 20th century, the essential concern was with the shape of organizational structures to generate a professional body, free of populism and charismatic leaders, much like a military organization that came to be the paradigm of the bureaucratic state. The essential objective was to create a stable management system, providing continuous and growing gains. Competitive processes. The bureaucracy resulting from this notion of scientific management at the beginning of the 21st century is exhausted because it has become an impediment to quick decision-making, to the redesign of management processes and innovation. The classical view of competitive advantage based only on prices, or even on the quantity of production factors, such as capital, land, and labor, gives way to the strategic notion of processes, exploring the different forces that make up the production chain of organizations, such as those generated by the bargaining power of suppliers, producers, customers, and the pressure exerted by new participants who want to enter the market. Information in the managerial area, therefore, has two concerns. One is to leverage financial and production resources, generating assets, goods, and investments. The other is to define innovation strategies that reinforce the position of companies in the market, strengthening their relationships with suppliers, customers, and new participants. Market, following this reasoning, is a set of forces, customers, suppliers, producers, that seek mediation through risk and liquidity expectations regarding the possibilities of becoming liabilities, debts, into assets, goods, investments in profitable returns, possibilities into realities. The information technology component. The technological component of information also pursues the two basic components that affect the managerial component, that is, the notion of the general value of things, and a science for problem solving. Systems. The notion of systems, in this sense, was the greatest contribution of the 20th century to broaden the view of science, configuring problems as open or closed systems, evaluating the greater or lesser interaction of their internal and external components, which create the problems and, so to speak, the systems themselves. So, system equals problem. A system only exists if the conflicting forces, internal and external, that compose it cooperate for its existence. It can be concluded from this that conflicts are the foundations of any system and cannot be resolved under penalty of annihilating the existing system itself, and consequently only manageable. The programming and data management. At the center of systems technologies are the methods and processes that attempt to model these internal and external components, starting with computer programming techniques to data administration and management, which have become the raw material of information. From structured programming, with continuous and sequential flows, to programming by objects defined in classes that inherit properties defined in hierarchically distributed functions, the development of systems technology has pursued two things: the creation of a language, and the definition of significance or intelligence in its processes. Language and intelligence create values for data, which is the basis for process evaluation also in the managerial area. In this way, administration and management of databases have become key pieces for understanding the value of information, how it is stored or retrieved in time, how it is valued or devalued over time, thus establishing its role as a mediator in the dispute between senders and receivers. Networks, equipment, and paper inventory. If in the industrial era, the focus of management was on timing on assembly lines, in the age of services, the concern is with the inventory of paper accumulated in steel filing cabinets or in databases. These paper inventories are at the heart of the service productivity issue today, and their management is essential for the survival of companies in the future. The modern view of paper inventory management goes beyond the concerns of database management. This vision is crucially focused on the configuration of computer networks, which enable greater or lesser accessibility to information, defining rules in the configuration and design of managerial processes of decision-making. As well as in the definition of the very arena of competition where customers, suppliers, and producers operate, that is, the market itself. The way in which this information is encoded, transmitted, decoded, and presented to both the sender and the receiver has become the key issue in modern information management. Electronic market. The focus of concerns in the design of 21st century management processes has become the administration of a set of technologies that are based on, firstly, protocols that encode, decode, transmit, and present data to users; secondly, methods and processes of intelligent programming that store and retrieve data, transforming them into information, making graphic interfaces media with their own language, and with the mission of establishing a mediation between senders and receivers, producers, and consumers. The current arena of intense competition for products and services, as we can see, now has two components. one real and the other created virtually. Management currently has two strategic concerns, a real one, referring to distribution, production and logistics, and a virtual one, referring to the configuration of networks, computer programming, and definition of communication protocols. Dawn of information, demise of bureaucracy. The question remains, however. This may replace bureaucracy in Max Weber's sense of a professionalized management body? As one can see, at the heart of the issue of control, command, and decision-making is the issue of the exhaustion of rigid models and systems, which follow the old-fashioned militarized bureaucratic paradigm, and their replacement by a new vision of mediation or the art of managing conflicting forces. In the decline of bureaucracy as a mediating element is the rise of information because of the balance between information technology, the value of the things around us, and innovation strategies. In this way, information becomes as important as a cost once had in the industrial age. From the automation of production lines, we moved on to the automation of decision-making in management processes. Information has also come to have an accumulative value translated as knowledge, and in the same way that money and gold once fed the passion of vanities, fame and the illusion of wealth, so now, information becomes a matter of decision-making power. This new information age is neither better nor worse than other past eras, it is just a step in human evolution until we reach what we could call now as a techno-culture. In this sense, man continues to be at the center of the cultural, moral and civilizational question. The concerns are that they have evolved with technology. This has been happening since the invention of the wheel. The most important issues today have shifted from unions, factories, and income distribution to the guarantees of privacy, equal opportunity, and rights of access to information and education. By Professor Ricardo Gomes Rodrigues. San Carlos, São Paulo, Brazil. August 14, 2024. Observation. This work was originally released by me on the internet in 2000, and the complete collection of the videos can be accessed at the link below. Technology and Information.